Welcome back. This week we're going to be discussing K-State's football season so far. We're going to be talking about the game against Arkansas State and the season in general.
Okay, so we all know the results of the Arkansas State game, and it was less than desirable. But there are reasons why, and I think that they're reasonable. As in, like one stat that I saw on Twitter, it was there was a major discrepancy in practices. Like Arkansas State hadn't had many COVID problems going in; they had 11 practices and an entire game against Memphis, which they lost, but they were very competitive the whole time. So they had a whole week of college football game. And going into that game, I'm fairly certain K-State had no practices in that lead up few weeks.
And in addition to that, we didn't have a lot of practices going in, and we also had quite a few injuries throughout the game that really sort of led to the collapse later on. We lost 2 offensive linemen and 2 safeties during the game to injuries, as well as Joshua Youngblood, one of our star players, not being available because he was injured.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Like the very first possession of the game is Noah Johnson, the center. He got injured and pretty much immediately went out, tried to come back and didn't work. Then same deal on the defensive side. Draw McPherson, he went out in a few plays. He was trying to play through an injury, couldn't do it. And then Wayne Jones, he got carted off the field on that last drive for Arkansas State. And they immediately targeted the depth at that position on like the next 2 plays. And that's how Arkansas State ended up winning that game. So smart scheming on their part. But,
yeah, I think something else just to keep in mind, like Coach Kleiman, he's still building his team, getting his roster. And so I'm excited to see, where we'll go in the next couple years too, once we've really built up our program even more.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. If any coach taking over a new place, unless it's like an Alabama or a Georgia or an OU, someplace that's just constantly stacked, you're going to have a tough hill ahead of you. It's going to be a couple of years of building and recruiting and getting people to buy in. And I think he's got the team bought in, and I think that he's got a really good team. But he's still got to get his guys in, and he's still got to develop guys and get them used to the system.
Yeah, and like the first – sorry, Caleb. In the first part of the Arkansas State game, like we were looking pretty strong there at the beginning, so that was nice to see too.
Yep. And really early on, that was Will Jones on like the very first possession for Arkansas State. He's a redshirt freshman, so this was his first significant playing time, and he blocked a punt. And 2 plays later, Thompson threw a touchdown, and it was looking pretty good. And Will Jones got an interception in the first quarter as well. So that's a bright spot, I think, to look at for the future. I think Will Jones is going to be really good for a very long time at K-State.
Mm-hmm. And there's also Will Howard, who, the backup quarterback, he's a true freshman. He only had a few snaps. It was actually kind of an odd coaching decision, in my opinion, to take out Skylar Thompson for just like a couple plays and then immediately put him back in, especially with Will Howard looking good while he was in there. But that's another positive.
Mm-hmm. And Skylar, he did on that possession right before we scored a touchdown, with the play before that touchdown, he had that scramble towards the end zone where he got flipped up in the air and landed kind of funny. So it's possible that he may have just like gotten a nagging like injury or something like that and just took a few plays off, because he came back in and looked like he was doing well, but I don't think it hurts, especially because it gets a true freshman a couple of snaps. Like, it does lose him a redshirt game, so he's only got 3 games left. He wants to retain that redshirt, but he still looks good.
So how are we feeling about the rest of the season, the game against OU and Texas Tech? Just to throw it out there, this recording has been made before the OU games. We're going to kind of talk about how we're feeling about that. But Caleb, what are you thinking about OU?
Well, as far as the rest of the season goes, I'm feeling okay. We found out some things that we need to work on during our first game, and although it's not ideal to go right into playing OU, who obviously one of the better teams in the country. It is nice that because they're so good and everyone expects them to win, we really don't have a whole lot to lose, and we can just, play our hardest and see what happens, and all the pressure is sort of on them.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think Casey has a pretty favorable schedule this year. Having OU early, like it's never fun to play OU, but getting them in the earlier part of your schedule, I think, is the best, because OU teams generally are really good down the stretch, and they really find their stride in late October, November. And K-State got them, I think, early October last year. So it was like right before they generally are hitting their stride. But yeah, getting OU early is going to be huge. And I think it's also going to be a really big, I think it's going to be a better gauge of where this team is than the Arkansas State game. So the expectations wise, I expect that they'll keep a close game. I think they're going to be competitive. And I think they still have a shot to win. They have as good of a shot this year as they did last year. And they won last year and were actually dominating for quite a bit of that game.
That's a great point.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how are we feeling about Texas Tech? I'm excited for the Texas Tech game, not going to lie. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm excited for Tech as well. That's going to be a return back to home for K-State, so that's going to be huge. And right after OU, they're either going to come away from that game on a high if they win, or they're going to come away knowing a lot more about who they are if they lose. So either way, they're going to come out of the OU game knowing a lot, and they're going to have a lot to build on. And Texas Tech is going to be a really good matchup, I think. And I think that they're favorable. I think it's a favorable matchup for K-State because Texas Tech, they did not look great against their first opponent, Houston Baptist. I think they're FCS. They may be Division II. I'm not 100% sure. But they nearly lost. They gave up 600 yards of passing. And K-State's not really prolific passing offense, but we can still get the job done. Skyler can still throw dots if he needs to. And Texas Tech has also had a lot of COVID issues. They've had 75 cases since June. So that's probably hurt some of those guys conditioning-wise, as well as hurting practice time.
And we still got a lot of time before that game. A lot can change. Hopefully a lot of positive changes can be made. So, yeah, excited for that one.
Yeah. Regardless, game experience is huge this year because practice is just so hard to get. It's few and far between. So getting a game in and getting players on the field playing just a full speed regulation football game is huge.
Yeah. And it's awesome, just something to keep in mind. It's awesome we're getting to have games, getting to have fans at games, because there's so many schools that you can't have fans, or some schools, they don't even get to watch their team play football this year. So
right.
It's awesome that we're getting to do that.
Yeah. Sorry to our Pac-12 friends that aren't going to get to watch their teams.
Thank you for watching. Check out our social media and website for more updates, and we hope you all have a great week.